Feels good. It feels good, doesn't it? We're back. It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been too long, in fact. I've been depressed. I've been depressed out of my mind. How long has it been? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? No way! There was no way. I had to get back. I had to get back onto this microphone. Had to hear that song. Man, I gotta crank this bugger up. Hold up. Oh, let's get it louder. There we go. Yeah, Danger Snow. Ha, I'm your boy, Jeremiah Bannister, the OG, the one and only Paleocrat, right here, Paleocrat Diaries, every single Monday from here on out. Reason and Theology, 11 o'clock. Well, close to it. Close to it. No Ascot today. There were some folks thinking maybe I would be a little bit late because of an Ascot. But the truth is, that's not why I was late. That's not why I was late. See, there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes. Meaning of Catholic, right? Earlier today, I was on Terror of Demons. You should go check that out after the show, okay? Beyond that, a whole bunch of patron-only stuff, Wolfpack stuff, and now the book! The book is coming. The book is coming, son! It's awesome. It's awesome. I have been pumped out of my mind, rocking it out every single day. That's what I've been doing. I haven't just been AWOL. What, are you out of your mind? You gone cuckoo crazy? Bonker town nuts? What are you thinking? I wouldn't leave you for that long, but I had to. Oh, I had to. And the reason why was simple. Okay, we're gonna tune it down a little easy, little Easter bits. Okay, I had to, because I've been working on this book for a long time, and in case for all of those who are unaware, okay, I'm writing a book about my daughter's life and death with childhood brain cancer, and she was 12 years old when she died, and how that ultimately led our family back to the Catholic faith. Okay. And so I'm writing it like a novel. So it's based on a true story, but it's not following factually everything, right? So it's a story. It's based on a true story. We're going to put pictures from the places we've been, people we talked to, everything to do with the stories in the book. So that way people can actually see, yes, in fact, it is about, these are based on true events, okay? These are based on true events. These are places we've actually been. These are experiences we've actually had, but rather than simply just saying what was going on inside, sometimes I make it artistic, okay? And it's poetic, and it's awesome, and it's been a lot of fun. However, I underestimated how much work I had to do. It happens, right? You can't be right all the time. You can't be right all the time. All my haters are like, oh, come on. This guy's hardly ever right. And I'm like, yeah, right. We're literally batting 1,000. Now, I mean, it's still close. It's still close. We can still say 1,000 just for fun. I'll let them debate that. But the thing is, I underestimated it. And so I was aiming to get it done at the end of December. Didn't happen. I was aiming to get it done at the end of January. That also did not happen. Okay. And in that time, it wasn't just that I was doing stuff to do with the book. I mean, I was also writing. I have some articles over at 1 Peter 5 that happened in that period of time. But most of my days were literally spent just doing that. You can ask all the folks at the Wolfpack chat. And actually, speaking of the Wolfpack chat, there you go. Boom. There you go. Let's get it back over to the work. There we are. Wolfpack chat. Wolfpack chat. There we go. So yeah, right there. Okay. If you want to follow us over at the Wolfpack channel, let's see if we can get this a little bit bigger. Let's see if we can get this thing a little bit bigger here. Let's see if we can scooch that. There we go. There we go. How does that look? That looks a little better, I guess. A little. I don't know. Not really. Not really. We're gonna fix it up a little bit more. Check this out. No, I'm not even gonna try it. So, if you want to join the Wolfpack chat, make sure Telegram, Paleocrat Diaries, Wolfpack chat. But ask anybody there, okay? Ask any of the freaks and geeks that are over there. Say, hey, look, what's Jeremiah been doing? And they'll say, we don't know. We have no clue, other than he says he's writing a book. And I can tell you, I talked to Timothy Flanders for Meaning of Catholic today. He's the publisher over at Our Lady of Victory Press. That's the group that will be publishing the first edition of the book. It's going to be an immediate classic, right? It's one of those that's like a classic and it just came out. But, you know, you're going to definitely want to get it. But talked to him today and said it's down to 2 chapters and down to fill in the blanks. So like stuff that I did early on 3.5 years ago, it's taken a lot of work. Okay, it's taken things, you know, I started writing it 3.5 years ago, and it was tough. It was really, really, really tough because it's about my daughter. You know, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? You write a book and it's talking about happy stories. You're crying. You're laughing, but you're crying. You end up writing sad stories. You're crying. You ain't laughing with those, okay? Now, sometimes the stuff that makes you cry, you know, was stuff that made you laugh, and sometimes the stuff that made you cry back then is stuff that kind of makes you chuckle a little now, under ordinary circumstances. But childhood brain cancer is not necessarily one of them, and so it was just a lot of crying, and I didn't want to write it. Didn't even want to write it. I did, but every day I tell myself, "Oh, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to write. It's going to be awesome," and I'd get all pumped up. I'd fix up the room. I'd fix up the office downstairs, whatever I needed to do, and we'd work on it and everything else. And then I would find anything in the world to do other than that. Not anymore. Not anymore. I've been doing this for about 1.5 months, and I've been loving it. Crying, yes, totally true. Laughing, lots of that too. But getting it done. Getting it done. And it was so cool because now I'm actually having conversations about the editing process, like what I can expect, right, from Tim, because I've never published a book. This is my first one, and so it has not been for naught. Okay, that's all I'm meaning to say. And we're not going to talk forever about all of this stuff. Okay, I'm not gonna go into any more detail other than that. And to say, I want to say what's up to all the folks in the Wolfpack chat over here in the YouTube. Okay, you got Weitzel. What's up, dude? Let's go. Come on, son. Yeah, Anthony Rodriguez. He's got a bunch of wolves there. He doesn't want to be outdone. He's like, no. He's like, I'm the boss. Anthony, by the way, is my right-hand man over on Telegram. So you got to go check it out. Jacob Fowler, Wolf. What's up, dude? By the way, Jacob, if you wanted to learn more about him, he is now publishing. It's one of those emotional things. So excuse me if I get a little choked up. They grow up so fast, everybody. You know, Jake, I interviewed Jake. We started talking a while, you know, boy, how many months ago now? And had him on the show. It was an awesome time. We hit it off right away, right? Real great friends ever since. And he was making these videos, and we were embedding them into Paleocrat Diaries over at Meaning of Catholic. And he was going through the ecumenical councils, right? And it was so good, and people liked it so much, okay, that Tim Flanders over there said, hey, look, we need to have Jake Fowler posting by himself, not just embedded, by himself. But he insisted that he remain with Paleocrat Diaries. So even though he's posting by himself, you're still going to see Paleocrat Diaries at the bottom. And I got to tell you, I love him for it. Alexander, he asked a ridiculous question. What is Paleocrat Diaries? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, man? What's Paleocrat Diaries? I thought everybody knew. The word's been out, man. I mean, I can't even walk on the street anywhere in the United States of America. Even homeless people come up to me. They know. They're like, they're at the library and they're finding out. I mean, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. You know, you go to all these different events and stuff, you know, even stuff for kids. They're like, oh yeah, Paleocrat Diaries. My dad and my mom watch that. Yeah, of course they do. So no, it's a happy, fun time, man. Glad Trad Central. This is Glad Trad HQ. We talk right now over here on Reason and Theology. We've been covering before the hiatus. Okay, before the hiatus, we were covering. Let me get back here. We were covering secular age, which is, well, technically no. Technically, we're covering a book that covers secular age. Okay, and it's this one. How Not to Be Secular. Reading Charles Taylor. It's much easier. I got secular age floating around here somewhere. The book is like, 700 pages long. We're not doing that. I just finished a 20-part series a while back. that on a book that's about 600 pages long or so. Enthusiasm by Monsignor Ronald Knox. It's a fantastic series. You can find that. We have a table of contents for that, as well as the Lassant series, and we'll have one for this, and all of that, of course, can be found over on our Telegram channel. You can find us. We have a channel and a group. Okay, the live chat never goes to bed. It's true, never goes to bed. They're up at like 3 a.m. talking in the live chat. So, but yeah, we're going through this book here. Okay, we're almost done. Basically, so far we've been laying it out. What is secular age, right? How does it affect us? Is anybody not affected by it? Or is it just something that all of us, it's like the water, right? We're fish in water, right? We're birds in the air. It's just the air we're breathing at this point. We wake up into a world where that's the only social imaginary we have. You know, and so in what way has it affected us? In what way has it affected the church? In what way? How many things are we dealing with right now that a lot of people, everybody's looking for an answer, you know. Everybody's looking for an answer and saying, oh, what's causing the problem? What's the source of the problem? And people got all different ones, you know. In the world that I kind of float around in, a lot of those conversations have to do with debates regarding liturgy or debates regarding the Second Vatican Council. I think those are misguided. Well, at bare minimum, well, yeah, misguided, but also just overall misinformed. They're not even understanding the development of the world in general that even called for that. And you can tell, because a lot of times the idea is that there was no pressing need for that to even be called. I think the mere fact that we're in this place, the mere fact that transcendence, the mere fact that the ancient regime is gone, essentially speaking, that even the people who believe themselves to be entrenched, fully saturated in the ancient regime, the mere fact that those individuals are so naturalistic, so materialistic, so consumeristic, that all of these things, okay, are evidences of an underlying shift. It's a mega shift, in fact. And so we're looking at it to see, how did we get here? What, you know, because secularism has its own idea. It basically says there's a subtraction story. Well, you know, God used to explain that, but then that went away, and then God, you know, and that once God was kind of eradicated from most everything, the underlying thing was just a neutral position. The argument in this book, well, the argument in Secular Age, the tome by Charles Taylor, is phony baloney sauce. That's phony baloney. Phone ballones. Big time. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Yeah. And once we're done, I gotta let everybody know this, right? We gotta keep cranking along. We gotta move along. I don't want to do 45-minute intros anymore. We got too much to cover. Because I really want to get to the next topic. And there's only, I think, 2 more episodes on this book after that, and the next 2 are what can you do? Okay? So I think that we will be finished with the background, the setting, the stage, and then to say, we live here, okay? This is proven. We say, okay, that seems most reasonable for the circumstances. What then shall we do? And once we're done with that, in fact, I'm not even going to wait for it. You're just going to have to, if you want to get right out of the gate, okay? You want to get right out of the gate, and you want to be up to par with what's going on, right? Because we're moving at record speed, pedal to the metal, right? If you want to keep up with that, you got to follow us also Wednesdays and Fridays, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, over at Meaning of Catholics YouTube channel, because we are going to be talking about enthusiasms, continuing it, but talking about how they developed in the 19th and 20th centuries to involve kind of a new dynamic. It was around before, but now it's really around, and that is cults. And we're going to start with the question, and I think a lot of people, when they hear the phrase cult, they may have a number of different ideas that come to mind, and one of those may be, for example, the serpent handlers. And I learned a lot about the serpent handlers on the time off here. I read some books and watched a bunch of documentaries. It was a bunch of fun. But I'm going to make the contention that they are not, in fact, a cult. And so I'm going to not include them in the cult. We're going to talk about, I think it's an enthusiasm, and it's one of the reasons I think we need to preserve that word as a category. We're also, of course, going to talk about word faith, okay? So the name it, claim it, flab it, grab it, tag it, bag it crowd. We're going to talk about those folks that believe Jesus was, rolling around in a Rolls Royce, eating some caviar and such, wearing a bunch of white, 3-button suits. Oh, man. But yeah, the Benny Hinn crowd, Joyce Meyer, all of those. We're going to go deep into it and talk, where did it come from? Where did that come from? It didn't just come out of nowhere, okay? It didn't come out of nowhere. And so it's a development of thought. And in fact, the ideas at the core of that are the same ones that oftentimes would lead to a number of cults, including stuff like the solar, what is it? Order of the Solar Temple. That's a wild one, right? The I Am movement, that kind of thing. New Thought, that sort of thing. The Secret. And so we're going to talk about that and why it's important. Not just to poke shots. We're going to talk about why it's important. We're going to talk about Robert's Lairdon and his book, I Saw Heaven, which is kind of remarkable because apparently Jesus rolled in to his house. I think he was like 13 years old. and Jesus just rolled up in there and he was watching Laverne and Shirley. And if you don't know what that is, I mean, it's a decent show and stuff, but he remembers that vividly, that it was Laverne and Shirley that he was watching. And Jesus came in and said, look, homeboy, we got to go up to the celestial paradise because I'm going to take you on a tour. So he did, apparently. The Lord took him up there and showed him all sorts of fantastical things, including, by the way, something I'd never heard of. We talk a lot about tradition and doctrine and stuff like that, but I have never heard of the Holy Ghost overdose pill until I read Robert's Lairdon. So we're going to talk about him, right? The Holy Ghost bartender. Okay, we're going to talk about that cat. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of that. But then it's going to build up to the place where we're going to begin talking about various enthusiasms that aren't charismatic or Pentecostal or, handling snakes and stuff. We're taking the Holy Ghost overdose pill and claiming to be splashing in the river of life with the Lord and giggling and stuff. And the Lord baptized him. I think he was already baptized. So technically the Lord is rebaptizing. But, there's some inconsistencies in the book. Let's just put it that way. There's a couple inconsistencies. I don't know what edition it's gone to. Honest to goodness, I don't think he's ever actually changed it. I don't. No. I don't think he's ever changed it. Like, he's never thought like, man, that's kind of heretical. Like a barn with a bunch of body parts and the Lord is telling him, look, I have all these miracles. I want people's arms to grow back and stuff, but they're just not claiming it. They need to claim it. I'd love to talk to that cat on the show and say, look, the Lord told you this. Have you ever claimed that over somebody, an amputee and stuff in a hospital? Have you seen that happen? Do we have any verification that happened? Do we have any doctors and stuff? I don't think he'd come on, but you never know. You never know. We got to connect with this, right? So, okay. With no further ado, again, remember, if you want to follow the show, you want to follow just the rigmarole, right? The live chats, which we do, their voice chats, you want to follow that. You want to get involved. You want to see the stuff we're sharing. You want to keep up to date with what we're doing and have conversations on a wide array of subjects. Make sure to go to Telegram. Okay, our Telegram is the Wolfpack Chat. It's really simple. Just the Wolfpack Chat, or you can just look up Paleocrat. Okay, Paleocrat, that's me, but it's Paleocrat Diaries, the channel. So you can do that, or just Jeremiah Bannister. And that, of course, is me. You can DM me there. And we always love talking to people, always love getting to know people. And a lot of the people in the chat, in fact, they're folks that's what they do. They're over there on a regular basis. And so if you see any of those wolves, you kind of know what's up. You kind of know what is going on with those folks. So, all right, we got to get moving here. We got to get moving. Hold on. How are we going to do this? There we go. Yeah. Oh, I'm so psyched to be back. It is a little bit weird, not going to lie. And I'm still overcoming. They think I had COVID. Is that like the third time they thought that this year? I won't take a test. I'm like, it's garbage. It's garbage. Right? Have you guys taken a test? Tell me in the comments. Tell me if you think it's garbage. And I'm like, no, I've just been coughing real bad. But I'm doing my Wim Hof breathing. I'm taking cold showers. I'm eating good. I'm sleeping, resting. I know how to lay if I'm kind of coughing stuff up. I know what to take, the vitamins, all the water. I know how to do it. And so, I overcame. However, I have a little bit of a rasp in my throat, which is a little bit of a bummer. But I'll tell you what's not a bummer. Hold on. First of all, get that coffee out right now. I hope you have it ready. I have mine. I'm already at it. I'm like, come on, son. Give me this coffee. You have to have your coffee ready. Scientifically verified. Get that straw straight to the dome. Watch. In real time. Make sure to do that. And then, once you've done that, do one of these numbers, like Macho Man Randy Savage, right? Do one of those, or like Hulk Hogan. And listen, come on, brother. And listen like that, because all around the world, right now, the people involved with Paleocrat Diaries are blasting the shofar. You should see it. It's absolutely remarkable. Ask Anthony. He's blasting it in New York right now. Ask Veronica about the didgeridoo. We got people on xylophones all over the place. And they're letting it out. And of course, we've got Haley. She's got the doves. And she has big boxes of doves. Opens them up. Carrier pigeons. Doves all over the place. Why? To inform everyone, your boy is back. Was it a little lonely? Was it a little eaters? Lonely without me? I get online and I checked. I verified it for myself. In fact, let me go through the notes real quick. Yes, verified. It's verified. Lonely without your boy. Make sure. And you know, this is one of those things. I got caught up talking about other stuff. The last thing I'm going to say, and I should have said this at the very, 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 very beginning. You know, this show is nothing without the people, right? And it's nothing without people praying. And we have certain commitments here. We have certain commitments that say every single day we're just grateful to be alive, right? This show is zany, okay? It's kind of crazy. There are people, you know, I got a bunch of flack. In fact, just today, got a bunch of flack. Oh, you're like a gamer screaming into microphones. I'm not even a gamer. I'm not. You know, we talked about that in a live chat. I said, look, I'm the kind of guy, you know, I like playing like Tiger Woods and stuff. I like games with beginning, middles, and ends, you know. And I like doing this kind of thing. But at the end of the day, what it's really about is every single day recognizing that you're special in the eyes of God. That he created you uniquely. You are you. There is no other you. And he made you to be you and the best you that you can be. And you have a purpose. And part of that purpose requires that you never give up. And we encourage you here to do other things. Never give up. Keep on smiling. And remember that you're going to die. It's been on my mind a lot because of what I'm doing. I'm writing. I'm already talking about it a lot anyway. It's literally the mantra of the show. Never give up. Keep on smiling. And memento mori. You're going to die. So am I. But that means that we should dream the biggest thoughts we can. We should really think big thoughts. We should allow God to guide us. We should say, look, Lord, I just want to do what you want me to do. And we serve a big and awesome God. And he genuinely cares for you. And so I just want to just remind everybody of this. And just to say, beyond the fun, beyond the crazy, beyond the debates, beyond me, you know, whacking people around on Telegram, trying to talk smack, whacking around a bunch of settings on Twitter, trying to talk smack. Beyond all that, the truth is, we're grateful to be alive. We're grateful to be part of the church. We take a knee for Jesus every day, and we resolve in our hearts, never give up, keep on smiling, and remember you're going to die. So do your best every single day, every thought, every word, every deed. Dream big and give it all you got. Let him take care of the rest. And pray for us in the meantime. So, all right. Having said that, and I'm, you know, in a way, I'm almost kind of glad that I got to say that without the music and the pizzazz. That I just, from my heart, Because it's not easy sometimes, is it? Sometimes it's really hard. And that's why you need other people. It's why, I guess some people, if they're called to be alone, they're called to be alone, right? But most people are not. Most people are not. Most people are called to be in community. And even those who are alone, like the hermits, okay? Even the hermits, them buggers, when they're alone, they are deeply intimate with the Lord, our Trinitarian God. So they're still part of a community, but they're completely dedicated to that communion with them. But not with individuals, not one-on-one like us. And in our secular age, right, it's increasingly difficult for people to feel connected. There's like people joke. You hear sometimes they'll say like, well, anti-social media, and there's a truth to that. It is antisocial, right? And so it can be difficult when people don't feel connected to their churches, or they don't feel that their churches are providing services or an environment wherein certain things could take place that historically that's where you would find it. For example, I have been recently dealing a lot and engaging a lot with people who are real lonely. Just terribly lonely. They're of a maritable age. They have a degree. They have a job. Attractive people. They're not, they didn't fall down the fugly tree. Nobody's like, beating them with the ugly stick and stuff. Like that didn't happen. And so, they're not elephant man and elephant woman. No offense to elephant man, or elephant woman. No offense. It's not their fault. But they're not that. Okay? But yet we live in a day and age where there's like this crazy kind of thing going on. These tensions, the disparity, the disagreement, the enmity, in fact, between various worldviews, and how it affects almost everything, including things to do with relationships, sex, ideas about love, who and what is acceptable, even in the wheelhouse. How many of you have been in conversations, by the way? This shows how dramatic it is. How many of you have had conversations with people who tell you, or you've been at least within earshot, right, of conversations of people who tell you that if, let's say, you're a dude and you're not willing to go out with a trans person, then you're a raging bigot and you might be, Uncle H.I., the rest of it. You know what that guy is. And they're like, oh, you're him. Oh, you're definitely one of those NAs, the rest of it, doing the funky salutes over in Germany and such. And they're going to say that's what you are. You're a raging bigot. Transphobic, xenophobic, all the phobics all put together into a monster. And that monster's you. Have you been there? I have. I used to be an atheist in the atheist community. You get it? In that world, you're definitely within earshot. You're literally looking at people who are just bona fide dudes. These are like people that for a fact are dudes. Born dudes, very much dudes. Has to go through numerous, surgery, has to do all sorts of hormones to try to present the illusion and do certain activities to keep up the act. And then to guilt you for wanting to know, what's your real name? How dare you? How dare you try to find out my real name? Wow. And how many of you hear this kind of thing? And I'm just using one example. It's an extreme one. But is it extreme anymore? And look at the way that that's affecting people. Even people who may not be that way, but people who are allies. And you see the ascendance of that. Not just the toleration of that, but the ascendance. And that worldview is imperial, as all worldviews are. But it's caused a serious problem. And it's resulted in enormous amounts of loneliness. And not just for traditional people. Not just for religious people. For everybody. Tons and tons and tons of people are lonely. And it's a weird world because you have a situation where you have a bunch of women who say, I wish there was just a man. I wish there was just a man who was, a real man. And then you've got a bunch of dudes over there that are like, look, I just wish the women were interested in dudes. And you kind of look at it. And you look this way. And then that way. And you're scratching your head and thinking, what the heck, man? Like, why don't you two just, talk to each other? But you find out it's deeper. You find out it's deeper. There's been a shift. There's been a shift from cosmos to universe. And it's now started to take root in our social imaginary. We've used this phrase before, okay? Social in the sense of being shared by many, not just intellectuals and elites. Imaginary, because it isn't just a theory or metaphysic held by a few elite intellectuals, but it's more like a worldview that more and more people kind of just take for granted as, quote, the way things are. Now, this is different. This would be like the social imaginary would be between your ultimate starting point in your worldview, right? Your ultimate starting point and your espoused presuppositions, what you're claiming is your worldview, right? Because insofar as, we've said this before, I have an entire episode on it, but I mean, if somebody says, well, I don't believe there's any such thing as truth, and they're sitting there and they're arguing with you over truth claims, which happens constantly. Those people like to argue maybe more than anybody in the world. They're like, no, there's no such thing as truth. There's no such thing as good or evil, but you're a wicked bat for thinking it. You're like, and so that would be an example of their ultimate presupposition, their ultimate ideas, most foundational basic things. That's how they operate their lives. That is not this. This, what we're talking about, a social imaginary, is between their espoused worldview and their ultimate ruling presuppositions. So if you were to be like a sandwich, like the meat in between the buns. But no matter what, like your presuppositions, it's a level of thinking that just says, that's just the way things are. I hear this sometimes. I remember when I got let go from a radio station. I had voted for Donald Trump in 2016. I was an atheist, though. And I kept that secret, okay? Not that I was an atheist. I was on radio and stuff. But the idea that I voted for Donald Trump. Because I knew that it'd be super controversial. And when they let me go, and the owner called and he's like, hey, look, actually, yeah, I got to let you know. We got to let you go. And I asked him, I said, well, were there any complaints? No. He laughed about it. No. Nobody's complaining about you. You're good. People like you. Well, then what? That's just the nature of our political reality. At the time, I thought, well, obviously not, because people are rolling with it. I know nobody's complaining. But he wasn't entirely wrong. It's an assumption nonetheless, okay? But Charles Taylor, he emphasizes that we're not primarily talking about a change in theory. Someone will say, well, it's a person's theory. No. Because most people don't even theorize. However, we all do spontaneously imagine ourselves in a cosmic context. And it's that which Taylor is after. Okay, so he's saying, how do we do this thing here, right? Like what is this social imaginary? This is our cosmic context. This is ultimately our worldview, right? Well, this is the imaginary that provides kind of a layer of this that says, oh yeah, we live in a world that's just spiraling out of control. There's no purpose. It's all material kind of thing. This is not so far away from Thomas Kuhn's notion of a paradigm, which is also a background set of assumptions of what is taken for granted, and thus it is not articulated. These are just assumed. And in some ways, it's why we have to debate, we have to talk about them a little bit differently. They're assumed rather than being made explicit. Hence, this section is entitled Imaginary Shift. Now, okay, James K.A. Smith says, while this shift might have been prompted and amplified by increasing empirical evidence, geological evidence pointing to an older Earth, astronomical evidence pointing to an expanding universe, etc., Taylor emphasizes the existential nature of the shift. Okay. Now, let me ask you. Somebody was asking me recently. Somebody was asking me, like, when did it start? Like your unbelief. And this, I don't want to jump too far ahead because it comes up later again more explicitly. But I told them, I said, I still have at my house, I still have the diary entries that I was writing while in astronomy class. And I was talking about how I no longer could so easily believe in young Earth creationism. I remember. That's how I was raised. Okay. So raised Pentecostal charismatic, non-denominational, but we still went to like Church of God, Assemblies of God. We'd mix it up. We'd go different places. But we're definitely in the realm of young Earth creationism, explicitly. Okay. And so to go to college and really for the first time hear really arguments about it, you know, and to see the way that it's laid out with, you know, math and saying, okay, well, this is how we can determine the speed of light and, you know, how long it would take and how we determine this and the tools that we use to do this. Like, I didn't know any of that. I wasn't raised in a school that taught that. I was raised in a Bible-believing fundamentalist school. And so, you know, I mean, no offense, it was kind of like, you know, the people in the dinosaur stuff. It's kind of what it was. I don't regret going there. There's nothing I could do about it anyway. But at the same time, it gives a context for this. But I remember how I felt. And all of a sudden, it was weird. And somebody, a couple days ago, same conversation I was telling you about a second ago, same conversation about, you know, how, you know, what led to disbelief and stuff like that. And someone in the comments or someone in the live chat was saying that they could never even imagine the possibility that there wasn't a God. They could get angry about God. They could think that God's a jerk. They could shake their fist. Why? Why are you letting this happen? You wouldn't be the first one. But they couldn't bring themselves to deny the idea that God exists. And I said, I obviously did. In the social imaginary level. I couldn't do it at the presuppositional level. The ultimate presuppositions. Couldn't do it. Because you can't function. You can't. There's why there's really no... the atheist, there is no atheist at a presuppositional level. And so you sit there and you go, okay. So, you know, I remember I was at McDonald's. That's where it happened. Isn't there kind of like a poetic justice to that, though? That it was at McDonald's that I first really, like, imagined a world where there simply was no God. And said, yeah, man, like, what are we then? I remember sitting there, and I'm mounting down a Big Mac, pounding down some fries, some of that sweet and sour sauce, getting hungry. Woman, I need some food. Bring me some food right now. Not McDonald's, though. So the thing is that I love my wife. I hope she heard me, by the way. But the thing, I'm being serious. So, but I remember looking around. I was kind of back in the corner. And so I'm looking down the aisle, and I'm seeing the people coming through the door on one side. And on the other side, I'm seeing people who had placed their order, and now they're leaving with their bags. So people who are hungry coming in, and people who've got their food, or who are done eating, and they're going out. So you're seeing this back and forth, this flow in different directions of people. And I'm far enough away, right, that I'm kind of analyzing them, almost like you go into the zoo, and you're seeing some dangerous creatures out there, but you're quite glad that there's distance between you and them. But I remember thinking to myself, is there a God? And what is this? What am I seeing right now if God's not real? I had a panic attack. I was so fearful. I mean, even of the idea, what's holding this crap together? What's making the world go round? Because my world was so surrounded by the transcendent. My idea of the world was so immediate, even in ways to do with like revelation and stuff. You know, I'd come from a background that's mystical to the extreme, to the enthusiastic extreme of laughing revivals and quietism. You're wrapped up in the moment and the heebie-jeebies and stuff. And all of a sudden, that world's gone. People talk about what happens, you know, why, and if somebody knows better about this, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, you know, like with anthropologists, for example, that the idea of just, oh yeah, Mr. you know, Western citizen with your cell phones and mirrors and all these other technologies that you've got, when you go to a place in the world that has never had contact with the outside world, that's an extremely, well, for one, it's dangerous. I mean, because they don't know what to do with you. There's actually a video of a guy doing that. That might have actually been a very reckless thing that he did. He even showed them a mirror, and you want to talk about somebody scared. They're trying to rub his skin, thinking maybe there's something on his skin. They're blown away by this. They're touching plastic bowls, and they're like, whoa. But that some people, if you were to take that person, and you were to take them out and bring them here, and not as a joke, not as, you know, a movie or something, but real, and they saw just how different it was. The idea is that, and this is where, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's very difficult for those peoples to survive after that. There's enormous amounts of despair. Enormous. The infighting. You're going to have some that say, no, can't be this way. And some that say, no, it is. I saw it. But there's a major problem, and it's in fact not just sad, but it's maybe even suicidal. Crazy. And that's how I felt. I felt in that moment, it was worse. It was even worse than the idea that the feeling I had after I read St. Francis de Sales' book, Catholic Controversy. And I was a Protestant pastor, and I read it, and all of a sudden, I'm like, am I really even a pastor anymore? Was I ever, in fact, a pastor at all? Short answer is no. Short answer is no. Functionally, though, that's what I was doing. That's what I was doing. But you start wondering about, you know, did you waste your time? Now imagine, but you still believe in God. So, I mean, at least you're admitting that you were just wrong about God, but the God, you're really at least kind of in the same wheelhouse. God is still providential. You know as much to be true. But atheism? No. It's a whole nother level. So right here, first, there's a fundamental extension of the cosmic environment in space and time, and that's uncanny. It's displacing. Such that we no longer feel that we fit into the cosmos as a cosmic home. Instead, we see ourselves adrift and cast into an anonymous, cold universe. Carl Sagan's that little blue dot. Tiny dot. Imagine, you know, I think people are wrong when they say, oh, you know, all the Christian people believed, you know, in the earth when it was like that. I don't want to use the word because I don't want to get in trouble with the algorithm. But you know what I mean, okay? Where the earth is kind of like this and not like, you know, like that. And so the thing is, they're wrong, right? However, you know, if a people believed that humans were the ultimate, okay? If they believed that they were the ultimate of all the creatures, as we believe that, but it was a pyramid, okay, and that was the prevailing idea, almost alien-like, that we were so different from the natural order that was almost alien. And you say, so if you have that belief system, that structure, and that gets dropped down, there's this dread about what does that mean? Are you telling me I'm just a monkey? How dare you? That's a legitimate knee-jerk reaction. Whether to the extent that it's right or wrong, I won't go into it here. But it's definitely legitimate because there's something at stake there. It's not just like there's nothing at stake, even if it has to be explained. That also means it's at stake because before it didn't have to be. It was just assumed. It was embedded in everything we said, everything we did, or at least said and did in our heads, right? That we thought about what we're doing and said, no, this is how we view our role in the world and what we're doing, our place in it, where we're going. Things are revolving around us. We're literally the pinnacle of all things. Our Lord came here to die for us. And you can hear it come out in conversations now regarding, aliens and such. You can hear that fear come out. Oh, what do we do? What do we do in that situation? You count them as people. But the idea is that it's a big difference. It's uncanny. It's displacing. We no longer fit into this cosmos. Maybe we're an accident. We obviously weren't here by design or purpose. Instead, we see ourselves adrift and cast into an anonymous, cold universe. Second, there's an increasing sense that things evolve, a sense that precedes Darwin. In fact, the fixation on design is already a sign of waning devotional practice. Already. Eliminating mystery as a consequence of Protestant critiques. And by the way, just so you're aware, Charles Taylor, the guy on the cover of this book, the one that wrote the tome, the massive book, Secular Age, he's a Catholic. But James K.A. Smith, he's a Protestant. I think there's a great sense of self-awareness throughout this book that a lot of this falls back on Protestantism. Now, he levels defenses here and there, but he recognizes, for example, eliminating mystery as a consequence of Protestant critiques of allegorization. Even believers end up reading the Bible as if we're a treatise on such a universe. You hear this debate. How is something supposed to be read? And there's a hyper emphasis on literal. And sometimes so much, and you can tell what's really at stake. What's really at stake when people struggle? Every answer on this has a leaky boat. I mean, let's be real. It is not an easy thing. If a young earth creationist tells you that it is easy to explain how there was no sun until the fourth day. They say, oh no, there was light, but there was no sun, no stars in the sky. None of that stuff hadn't been made yet, hadn't been filled yet. It was still empty, but yet there was light. If they say that's easy peasy lemon squeezy, it's kind of saying nothing, but also saying plenty more than enough. Because at that point, they're not even being honest. It's really about preserving something bigger, something different. And that typically comes out in the conversation that many people, I mentioned earlier that a lot of people, when they talk about the ills of the world, they lay it at the feet, for example, of Vatican II or the Novus Ordo. They say, well, that's where it is. You have another group that says the 1960s or rock music, communism, evolution. And they have kind of a network of these assumptions as if they all just work together and there's no difference. Or as if you must believe one of these things in order to believe another. But it's not even really about that, what it is, because, that's a tough sell. In fact, it's so tough, it's impossible. But that's not even what it's about. It's about the fact that they're in a world where they feel like all the design is gone. All the design, the ideas behind it, the ideas behind a God that cares, that says, you're the center of the universe. The Bible's a love letter to you. The sun rotates around you, orbits around you. You are the pinnacle of all these things that I did. And I sent my son only here. There's nothing else out there. There's nothing else out there. That is a powerful social imaginary. And it's literally slipping through people's fingers. And they're struggling. In other words, no one is more modern than a fundamentalist. This supposed pure face-off between religion and science is a chimera, or rather an ideological construct. In reality, there's a struggle between thinkers with complex, many-leveled agendas. But one can understand the trajectory that leads from this cosmic imaginary to materialism. If the eminent, those things, the eminent, is going to be self-sufficient, so we don't even need to go beyond the eminent anymore. It's all just whatever's there. We don't need the transcendent anymore. If that is, in fact, what you believe, then materialism has to be all there is. It'd have to be. And I can imagine people saying, well, no. What about, there's mystical systems, but even those, it would have to be a god that's basically a product of space and time. Like the Nation of Islam god. Greeks, the Greek gods. Not predating it. So even that, I've said before, and we'll talk about Nation of Islam in our cult series, but like, the idea that I said, in many ways, it's kind of atheistic. There is no resurrection. There is no they call them spooks, no spirits. There's no spirits. There's no spooks. And there's no resurrection. You just resurrect in the mind. But it's all like right here. This is like the divine battle. And the people who ascend at all are ascending to the mother plane, the mother of planes. The mother of planes up in the sky. With all the scientists who control the weather and stuff. But fundamentally, that's a materialist view. That's an eminent frame. What is unique about Taylor's story is the significance he accords to both the Renaissance and Romanticism. Philosophical accounts of modernity, and hence our present or postmodernity, tend to have an epistemological fixation that seizes on the Enlightenment. I don't want to spend too much time on this particular part, but I want to make mention of it. Taylor considers the central role of art in creating this open space that characterizes our secular age. One of the features of post-romantic art, he suggests, is a fundamental shift from art as mimesis to poiesis. From art imitating nature to art making its world. Think about it. Think about it. This was necessary precisely because the flattening of the world meant the loss of reference. We find ourselves in Baudelaire's forest of symbols, but without tether or hook, without any given to which the symbols or signs refer. So if everything is leveled and everything is imminent, forms are toast, right? The signs and the symbols, everything else. What is it pointing to if everything is imminent? What the heck? And he says right here, he says, enclosed in the imminent frame, which is now the home of the buffered self, right? We're protected in this way. The best we can do is triangulate, meaning from our signs. So imagine you got your signs through historical nostalgia to our present. So in poetry, for instance, where formerly poetic language could rely on a certain publicly available orders of meaning, it now has to consist in a language of articulated sensibility. The poet must articulate his own world of references. In other words, the poet has to create the world. Taylor sees similar shifts in painting and music. I don't, and it's one of these things where sometimes I wonder if they press the issue too far. What do you think? What do you guys think? Is it pushing it too far to say that all we've got left anymore are that? Is it just a generality? Is it fair to say it's a generality? We see this play itself out a lot of times with art where you go and you say, what in the heck is that? and you're so confused, in fact, about what art may or may not be, that you get to the place where that one, well, what was it? The one individual that left his glasses on the ground and people are down on the ground taking pictures of it. What was that? Other than, a guy, I don't know, leaving his glasses on the ground. Can you imagine, by the way? Can you imagine being that cat? And being like, hey, I'm looking for my glasses. Where are my glasses? And you're looking all around and you see these people huddling on the ground. You're like, I must have missed an art exhibit, I'm going to go check this out. What did I miss? And you go and you don't have your glasses. You're like, you can't be doing this thing. What's that? And so you get down real close. And like, oh, you can't see? No. What is it? Oh, you got to get closer. Okay. Get closer. I'm real close. And then doink. And they like hit it. Oh, what? And then they feel it. My glasses. And then he just picks them up and walks away. And everyone's like, oh man, that was an awesome exhibit. My favorite one of the entire place. Yeah. But we're kind of there. Same thing with music. And yet, I don't think we're completely beholden to that. I don't think there was just a pure chaos. And I don't think they would say that either, I guess, because it at least triangulates back to us. And we are still created in the image of God. This world is still created in such a way that reflects Him. We live and move and have our being in that world. We have a conscience. We have a network of related presuppositions that allows us to make sense of the world. So to that extent, and universals, it even fleshes itself out in various universals. So you say, okay, we can at least do that. But even that, I think, is getting tough. Or at least is not so in vogue. And everything becomes so personal, individualized. Taylor sees the emergence of absolute music, whereas the music that accompanied the Mass, or even the plays, was tethered to action and a story, engendering responses within a community of practice that knew the references. With the new music, we have the response in some way captured, made real, there unfolding before us, but the object is not there. The music moves us very strongly because it is moved, as it were. It captures, expresses, incarnates being profoundly moved. You feel the music. A lot of times people, they don't follow the lyrics. They don't even care. I understand that. I used to listen to Nirvana all the time. I used to listen to Bush all the time. You want to talk about bands that literally sometimes just don't make any sense. Gobbledygook. Kurt Cobain sometimes would just be straight up jacked on drugs. And they'd be like, oh, we got to write this song. He's like, oh, yeah, give me a second. Let me give you a napkin. He's scribbling stuff down with a pencil. And it ends up being a great hit. Catchy music. Love his voice to this day. Love it. Right? But a lot of those songs, just straight up nonsense. But it still sticks, right? Something, somehow. I actually think, I think that's a testament to God in the same way that people who have the most outrageous, unrealistic, self-defeating, nonsensical beliefs in the universe that you're like, how does this person survive? The fact that they can not only survive but thrive because the sun shines on the just and the unjust. And I would add to that the very, the wise as well as the outrageously stupid. And that the rain pours as well on both. As a testimony to God. But we see this unfolding before us in this emotion. Something is being incarnated right before us, and it's profound. But what at? What is the object? Is there one? so we get significance without any aesthetic moral burden. And so we get new sacred spaces of modernity. The concert hall is a temple. We were talking about this just a couple days ago when debating in the live chat. It was late. It happens. It's like 11. It's like, well, I say 11. I really mean like, 2:11 in the morning. So we're up really late and we're debating and we're getting in a heated debate over the impact and the role of various mediums. And I was trying to explain that we can see the impact. Like, for example, the concert hall as a temple. But I'm not even sure anymore if I would say that. And maybe, but I'm also kind of given to certain ideas regarding film or television as being having a function in a secular society similar to liturgy, that we're all trying to get on one page. And in fact, even the person I disagreed with in the video chat, they were talking about that. We're all trying to get on the same page. And then people talked about how it was, similar to what it was back in the days of Greece. They were all kind of tuned into this thing. We have most people feel compelled to one degree or another to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to the news. But we have new sacred spaces, concert hall, a museum. And if you disagree with these, because I might, concert hall is a temple, a museum is a chapel, tourism as the new pilgrimage. What do you think? What do you think? By the way, in the comments, somebody was talking about that there were the changes that are made, right? Where and they're talking about people who put too much blame, overemphasis on one thing. And they brought up the idea of people who would blame the Second Vatican Council or who would blame the Novus Ordo. And they'd say, oh, look at this. And we're talking, and I'm not playing around with the clown masses. I think everybody here agrees the clown mass sucks. I don't know anybody who's like, oh, no, I'm going to bat for the clown mass. I don't know anybody. I know zero people. And if I ever met them, I'd probably karate chop them right in the throat. That's what I would do. Hiya! Right to the neck. I look, I wouldn't want to be super rude, but I saw the video of the priest coming out in some roller skates and doing his thing. Woo! Coming out. And the music, everybody's jamming out to Jesus is a friend of mine or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't trip him or anything, but if he tripped, I would be unsurprised. I'd be like, oh, okay, I didn't do that, but it might have actually been the Lord. Might have been. Kind of wish that happened more. All right, but the idea of saying, no, let's go back to the ordinary form as it was in the most original manner, right? As it's put out in Latin. Same thing, the Second Vatican Council, same thing. People will associate all sorts of evils with it. And yet, they were talking about how even in history, that well before that, there were people who were engaged with birth control. Well, obviously, because Paul VI had to deal with that. Look at the changes. We're the holdout, man. We're the holdout. And it was major differences of opinion. Still are. But at least it's written in the authentic and ordinary magisterium. Yeah, 70% of Catholic couples were on contraception before the Novus Ordo. This is by Lil Wayne. Never quoted by the angry trads. And in part because it's the same kind of thing, as I was saying earlier, like James Smith in this book, he says that, and he's quoting actually Charles Taylor saying that he warns people against this idea of just labeling the other side the most repugnant thing you can, that all of the evils are found in that, the things that you're against, that everything is bad in that. In part because there's a good possibility that that's actually very fake. You don't want to support the fakeness. I mean, it's just a fact. But more than that, right? More than that, you're probably actually just very wrong. Like take for example this, saying, "Oh man," a lot of times they'll invoke the opposite and say, "Oh no, back before Vatican II, everything was awesome. Everything was on the up and up, all around the world." And it's like this magic trick. They think, well, all of a sudden a bunch of great people went, and all of a sudden they were doped. That's nonsensical. That's literally nonsensical. That's kind of like saying, oh no, all of the people who were condemned of heresy, they were totally orthodox up until that exact moment. No, the verdict of them being heretical is in fact just a recognition of what already was. Isn't that obvious? Come on now. Yeah, don't be ridiculous. Same thing with that, right? St. John Damascene claims his hand was reattached after Muslim caliph had it cut off. So I wouldn't laugh so much about a thing, just saying, hey, I was talking, in fairness, Jennifer, in fairness, I wasn't laughing at the idea. I was laughing at the idea that Roberts Laridan said it. I was laughing at the idea that a raging heretic who's talking about the Holy Ghost overdose pill, that individual saying, oh no, God just wants you to claim that. That's what I was laughing about. God does miracles all the time. If you can have floating axe heads and water turn into wine and a man raised from the dead, like God and such, I don't put too many limits on what miracles can be. So I wasn't meaning to do that. I apologize, Jennifer, but thank you. Thank you. Keep me on track, by the way, Jennifer. Keep me on track. LaFontaine. Yeah. Let's see here. But what do you think about that? What would be the modern liturgy? I mean, Ann Coulter, Ann Coulter has the book she talks about. I forget what it's called. But even talks about abortion being a kind of sacramental thing. Why don't we believe? Why we don't believe or don't believe our own testimony? If someone tells you, and we were just talking about this, is amazing because I didn't even refresh myself on this until just yesterday, to be really honest. And then today I'm doing highlighting and stuff. So it's actually been a while since I read this chapter. If someone tells you that he or she has converted to unbelief because of science, do not believe them. Don't. In fact, make it a goal that if somebody comes up to you and says, no, I rejected the Lord and I walked away from the Catholic Church because of X, Y, and Z, and they don't mention sin. Okay, now with him, he says because what's usually captured the person is not scientific evidence per se, but the form of science. And I would say that's like the bow. Right? That's kind of like the last part, the cherry on top sort of thing. What drives somebody to that place in the first place? Overwhelmingly, the testimony of the saints is not that a person in some fake, mythological, neutral stance. By the way, another phony, nonsensical notion. They were like, well, I was just neutral one day. I was out in that mythological place called neutrality. and I was saying, I don't believe or not believe. I'm just literally smack dab in the middle, and I'm just taking the evidence as it was. And once I did it, I came to the conclusion that, you know what? Where I used to believe in God, I no longer... Baloney! Baloney! And I tell you that because that's the kind of crap that I used to say. And that's the kind of nonsense that tons of atheists say all the time. All the time. And it leads to these outrageous arguments. Oh, we better, they must have heard a really good argument. I'm telling you right now, no, they did not. Somebody in the chat, again, I know I keep mentioning the chat. I really encourage you to go. We're there. We do it all the time. So if you want to be involved in this discussion, it goes on throughout the week. We have multiple discussions about different topics like these all the time. I said, somebody made a video about me. Was Jeremiah Bannister ever really a Christian? Or was Paleocrat ever a true Christian? And his answer was no, he was a Calvinist. And he said he didn't believe, and in fact, the number of people did not believe, including the guy that gave me this book. He's a Anglo-Catholic now. But at the time, nope, you were not a real Christian. And I remember I responded to these people. I made a video. And I went through all these different positions of why I changed my mind. How did I go? How did I go from making videos against atheism? How did I go from debating atheists on radio? How did I go from writing about apologetics online and writing about theology online and studying it for years, over a decade and a half of my life? How did I go from that to being at a place where I said God doesn't exist? And that's the tamest thing I said, for real. That's the least blasphemous thing. How? My answer was always rationalistic. Oh, I started studying some psychology. I put on my monocle. I started looking at some arguments. And after evaluating them on my neutral scale standard, no! It's hogwash! All the way hogwash. Truth is, deep down inside, fact, sin. The saints are right. It is sin. Deep down inside, and a lot of times they don't like to talk about it. And why? Because they don't believe in sin. They say they don't. They're suppressing the truth for a lie. Because they've exalted something above God. Not least of which is themselves. They say, oh, how dare you? You don't know me. How do you know I was engaged in sin? I mean, I'm not going to get too graphic, but, there's some solitary sins you could ask him about. Say, hey, there's a solitary sin. Were you doing that? No, I was not doing that. Yeah, money down. Money down. Clouding judgment. Well, I don't believe that clouds judgment. Oh, whoop-de-doo, for my position, it does. And by the way, it's sin. I don't believe in sin. Instead, I'm going to go ahead. And I'm going to just start blaming, my studies in astrology and mathematics. The idea that would make God not exist. Oh, no, God doesn't exist because mathematics, what are you talking about? What are you smoking? Because the age of the universe, what are you smoking? The convert to unbelief will want to give the impression that it was the scientific evidence that was doing the work. Converts to unbelief always tell subtraction stories. The idea, yeah, well, I used to believe in miracles, but then I started wondering that, and then I started wondering this, and then I started wondering that. Their testimony betrays. Their testimony betrays the simplistic shape of the faith they abandoned. Totally true. Totally true. Or they know better and they don't want to deal with it. I did that all the time. People say, you should debate your old self, Jeremiah. You had videos about apologetics and such. You had episodes on radio. You should go check it out. I mean, you totally crush yourself, man. Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to do that. No. Never did it. Never did it. Why? It was easier just to say that I'd crush myself. In fact, that's part of the chapter that I wrote just yesterday. I'm on the last paragraph of that chapter. When I'm done with this, I finish it. Of my book. That there are certain things that you suppress, certain things you want to ignore. At a presuppositional level, at the level of social imaginary, things that you want to hold on to, ideas regarding Forgiveness, for example. Opposite people who are atheists who say, well, I'm against the mob, you know, like the Twitter mobs and stuff. All the people with the pitchforks. Ah! You said something I don't like. Ah! And they're foaming at the mouth. Yeah. And you say, yo, I don't want that, man. You say, well, what do you do with the person who made the mistake? Well, that person's got to get their life right. What do you mean by that? Don't do the bad. Based on what? Based on what? Agreed upon norms. Deep down inside. Or at Christmas time. Oh, I'm so pumped up, it's Christmas time. That's Jesus time. No, it's not. I'll tell you. You should see my winter solstice. You should see my Kwanzaa celebration. Oh, man. My Festivus pole. No. But in fact, their conversion to unbelief was also a conversion to a new faith in science's ability. Now, you'll have people, right? They don't like that. They do not like when you say that they have a faith. Atheistic people, secular people. Oh, no, I do not. How many times have you heard, yeah, you know what? When you say we have faith, you know, that's like saying that not collecting stamps is a hobby. I say, wow, so you guys are always having these conventions of non-stamp collectors. You guys have symbols of non-stamp collectors. You have magazines about non-stamp collecting. Stop lying. Do not let them lie anymore. Literally drag them to that crossroad where they have to face their sin. Even if they get mad at you, you've done your part. You've been John the Baptist in their lives. You've been the person to say, look, you have sin in your life. There's no way that you went from belief in that to belief in that. Perversion through the roof. And for what? It's not impressive, by the way. And if you want to know why it's not impressive, you should go back. I think it was the last episode I did on this channel. Go back and just check out the video. We talk about some stuff. And we're not playing Pokemon card apologetic method. About, well, this argument leads you to a certain place. It's very nuanced and textured. It suffices. There are some weaknesses, but you got to this, and it might lead the person here, but you got to couple it with the kalam. Blah! You're playing Pokemon cards. I'm going to start making that. Talk to my wife about it, actually. I'm not lying about that. We're actually going to do that. We're going to make Pokemon cards with apologists, their faces, and counter apologists, stuff like that. And it's going to say, like, the probability, like, the various schools of thought, the various kinds of argument, what argument it would need to be coupled with for the maximum strength. Do better. Do better. Now, the loss of purpose. All right, so it's not just this idea of a replacement story. It's not just an idea about, science gives us all the answers. There's a loss of purpose, but that's also a kind of liberation, because now we decide what goals to pursue. God is dead. Viva la revolution. In the liberating power of the loss of meaning, one can already see burgeoning hints at what's coming. Nietzsche and other post-Schopenhauerian visions, that's what we're going to get, right? So you see what's coming, and they'll say, oh, no, that's not true. And you'll hear this all the time. Oh, no, that's ridiculous. We're not going to go to that level. We're not going to find ourselves there. How dare you? How dare you? Don't you realize we're like hardcore about social justice? Because it's a hangover. What we get here, according to Taylor, is an internal critique of modernity. The eminent counter-enlightenment that turns against the values of the Enlightenment precisely insofar as those values were secular analogs to a Christian inheritance. because it's a missing link. And so the people, as you get further away, you're going to say, look, why do I need that thing? Look at that. Ugh. You see this play out in group dynamics all the time, especially with cults. You say, oh, look at the people who don't like the halfway house. And they say, yeah, I'm a Protestant like Luther, but he believed in like infant baptism and baptismal regeneration and such. That's Romish. That's papist. We need to stop believing that. They didn't take it far enough. And they throw that thing under the bus. And you have a moderating influence over time. When we get from Nietzsche as a critique of that strand of exclusive humanism that secularized agape, giving us the universalized agape analog, what we get from this Enlightenment formalization of secularization of Christian sensibilities, and that, by the way, is a funky sentence to read out loud. Try doing that. What we get from this Enlightenment formalization of secularization of Christian sensibilities in a secular religion of life. It's what you get. A secular religion of life. And it is that to which the post-Schopenhauerian strains of counter-enlightenment are reacting. That vision is still a minority report in contemporary Western culture, however, but one can see the counter-movement already within modernity itself. You see this how? Multiple ways of getting at something, right? It's not always just a full frontal attack. And you go, look at how Christmas operates, right? And you have enough of the Jesus-y stuff in there. It's still named Christmas. I anticipate that it will for a long time. We have enough people on that score. But more and more people who are secular are finding it strange that people would even celebrate that. And they're starting to promote alternative ideas. More and more of them are finding it strange that people are going to groups and trying to get involved in groups that have some kind of a communal structure for worship or for various phases and stages of people's lives. It's becoming more isolationist, more individualized. It says, oh no, you don't need to go to that place. That's weird. You don't need to go to Christmas vigil. I know or you don't need to believe in the idea of granting that person a second chance, letting that person stand up, make amends for their mistake, because you can no longer even say get that person's heart right with what? Get that person's heart right with the universe, man. Get it right with the universe, dude. What if you said, well, it isn't it right with you? No, man, it's not. Yeah, it is. No. Who is right? People say, you can't get your heart right with the universe. And I say, that's my point. So it's not simply a subtraction story. But it also can be accounted for with a diffusion story. As if it's some like trickle-down effect, right? From your leaders, your secular leaders and such. Running out of time. And so to understand what secularization is, we're going to go beyond that. We already talked about the unthought, right? We already talked about the stuff that's in the background of the mind, the presuppositions and the various layers of that. Espoused and ultimate. And I want to get a little bit of time so we can talk about some comments real quick. But there was something I wanted to talk about in this that says, oh, hold on. Come on now. So there's this idea, right? That we're trying to put together people are trying to put together some kind of a religion, something that's going to hold them together. Right? Something that's able to provide it for us, because it can't just be science. Nobody's going to sit there and say, well, I'm just waiting for the next scientific thing to come in. That would be one dynamic of it. That'd be one dynamic of it. But there's no way that it could be the whole. because people are more than that. We're not, as much as some of the weirdos, and when you get into like the scientific activist community and stuff like that, you're really in the land of weirdos. A lot of those folks are kind of like, Spock and Data and such. Like, I don't mean to dog Spock and Data, but you know what I mean. You kind of have an overemphasis on a certain type of person or a certain type of expectation that it doesn't matter. Oh, you don't need to sing along or do any kind of things that involve local pride. Well, tell that to the vast majority of people, the Johnny Q and Sally Sue of the world. It's an elitist mentality. I go as far as to say it's white supremacist. Somebody mentioned that to me recently, too. I said, oh, totally 100%. That's why you have a small gaggle of these elitist, sciencey folks that say, oh, no, science is the only way to go. Scientism is number one. And they go around the world and they have to white-splain to everybody. I'm only using that because they use it all the time. Oh, white-splaining. And you're like, oh, that's what you're doing. How dare you? We never do that. We never do that, buddy. And I go, yeah, you do. How do I know? Because I went to Reason Rally, you weirdos. You know, what was it? Black non-believers? What is it? And the people at that booth were a bunch of white people. Some I knew. Nice enough people. Right? At the time. But they're sitting there and what are they doing? Wearing the black unbelievers out shirts and stuff. Arguing with black people who believed in God and were there to try to witness to who they thought might be more black people, I guess. But what did they find? They found a bunch of white people. Explain to them, you know what? Hey, your people only believe that because the white people told them to. And you're like, I'm here because I just wanted to come down here and talk to somebody. I didn't know I was going to be dealing with some white weirdo wearing a black person shirt saying they're a black person at a black person tent. How did I know I was going to deal with some weirdos today? It's an atheist rally. But that's another level. Taylor's willing to see religion as a genuine, independent, irreducible motivator for human action and social life. And we'll end with this topic, okay? Not something that can just be explained away as an epiphenomenon of economic or political or evolutionary factors. Okay, so it's more than just, of course, he's a believer. He says you can't just simply reduce it down and say, well, it's just purely economic. I think that sometimes the opposite side, the transcendental people, the people that believe in the transcendence of God and believe kind of in a world that's more porous with spirituality, that we are porous creatures, that there's an interplay and interflow between heavenly beings and heavenly realities and our own. And they kind of go too far and say, you can't really, it's again, almost something alien. But I think you can read Douglas Sloan Wilson, or David Sloan Wilson. I think you can read him about Darwin's Cathedral and see that you can talk about religion. It's the same thing with Jonathan Haidt in Righteous Mind. You can talk about these things. Evolutionary psychology does in many ways. You can say, even from just a purely naturalistic standpoint, you can still see the beauty in that. Why? Well, because, God's created order and such. Because we're created in his image. Because we are called for a purpose. And that purpose involves religion and the church. And that we can look out at the world and we can see those things in such a way that we're left without an excuse. Debate the details. But no matter what, you're left without excuse. Second, okay, instead, he emphasizes a transformational perspective, saying that if you can't reduce religion down to mere belief in supernatural entities, okay, so because a lot of people say, we're not religious because we reject supernatural entities. And he says, no, you're missing the point. Transformation perspective is essential to religion, the perspective of a transformation of human beings, which takes them beyond or outside of whatever is normally understood as human flourishing. So more than just simple human flourishing, there's something transformative about this experience. So religion is not just about a set of propositional beliefs regarding certain kinds of supernatural entities. Religion is not merely an epistemology and a metaphysic. And it's more fundamentally about a way of life. I made this argument, didn't I, everybody? I made that argument every day, didn't I? When we were doing the Fatherless Son series. Derek Babb says, my favorite guest. God bless you, Jeremiah. Dude, I'm not a guest. I'm on here now, buddy. I'm on here, Derek. I'm on, buddy. And thank you, man. Thank you. And I bet you're talking about that episode where I talked about the testimony. We talked a little bit about ghosties. And then the ghost story in Minnesota. And then we talked about the exorcism. What is it, 1995? If you haven't heard that yet, you got to go back and check it out. I'm not talking to Derek. He's heard it. Derek, you've heard it, haven't you, buddy? Yeah. Let's see. Nim Grace said it. Well, I'm not good looking. Not married. No guy would ever give me a second look anyway. So I've reconciled myself to the single life and I am genuinely content. I do miss traveling to Europe. You know, you should talk to us. I think we could work with you. I'm dead serious about it. I don't. Fatherless Sons would say, "No way, Jose." You know the idea. If you're gonna be good about being single, then you got to be involved in some kind of religious thing. I'm not saying. I'm quoting just Lasans. I'm not saying you have to agree with him. I'm just saying that's what he says. If you want to know more about that, I think it's my last episode I did on this Lasans series. You know, but I think it's one of these things. I can't imagine you being like a complete wreck. I mean, you're listening to the show. You're tuned in. You're tuned in. And no matter what, on the bright side, I'm dead serious. And I know it's kind of flippant, but you're the one who said you're not good looking, you're not married, no guy would ever give you a second look anyway. I think there's some things we could work on that would make it better. I'm not even just talking looks. I'm saying even the presentation with that. Because there's probably a dude out there who might actually do that to look at you. If you genuinely wish that you were married, and that's a desire you actually have, I don't think God is a sicko. I don't think God gives you a desire like that that's completely legit, unless it's from the devil and the devil's doing it, and you're supposed to be a nun or something. But if you prayed and you've gone to a director, spiritual director, and all that stuff, no, that'd be sick. And I don't think God's a sicko like that. You should seriously be part of the Wolfpack chat. And if you are, hit me up, okay? But the idea is that it's a way of life, a religious way of life. One that calls us to more than merely worldly, more than just human flourishing. Height, there we go. William James. Height, David Sloan Wilson. Apparently I wrote it in there. It just means that Taylor offers a different story. The heart of secularization is precisely a decline in the transformation perspective. And you can see that, I think you can see that most of all, at least in the way that hits really close to home to a lot of people, and it's actually frightening, is the idea of being canceled. It's the idea of getting banned, censored. Because people would sit there and say, in the past, in the West, you could say, well, yeah, this person did something wicked bad, but they need to get their life right with God. They wouldn't just say, if they said they need to get their life right, and you said, well, what do you mean by that? They'd say, I don't know, man, like a Jesus moment or something. Maybe go back to church. Dude needs to pray. Like it'd be something along those lines. Generally. That was kind of a fabric, right? That was a thread that wove its way throughout our society, throughout our cultures, and said, hey, at least it's redemptive. The idea that you're not just saying, oh my gosh, that's a scumbag. How dare you? We need to make sure, get all your friends. Hey, you, get over here. You, get over here too. Bring the pitchforks. Bring the torches. What did the guy do? I don't know, but people are mad on Twitter. Ah! But that's where we are. And you say, oh, what are you going to do? And they're like, nothing. You're going to go ahead. You're going to lose your job. I'm going to call you school. People are looking you up. Oh, man, I'm going to get this guy. Oh, I'm going to wreck his life. Oh, yeah, man. There's nothing redemptive about it. And insofar as there ever is, I had a situation one time. You know, I've had people, I've been doxxed a bazillion times. So I'm not even kidding. I used to have a list of like the different groups that doxed me. So, but the thing is, like, you sit there and you say, I had one situation where I said some stuff that got me in some trouble. I went against the Women's March as an atheist. I'm like, oh no, Women's March was grotesque. Women's March was grotesque. And it's absurd. The Me Too movement, absurd. Nah. And they were all ticked off, and I had a buddy, a well-intended guy. Well, I don't even know what I can say anymore. He's at least somebody who we cared for each other. And he was trying his best with his lights that he had at the time to say, this is what I think you should do. He's like, look, man, you got to fix the situation. Well, what should I do, man? Well, I think you need to go and do some speeches. I was like, about what? Oh, like, me too, dude. Oh, you want me to go around doing speeches about the Me Too movement? I don't think you want me to. This guy's definitely SJW guy. And he goes, yeah, man. He said, no. He's like, hear me out. This is serious. You should do speeches, but make it like a big tour and just go all over. And I said, what if I actually did that? What if I did 20, 30, 40? Would that be enough for you? Oh, yeah, man, yeah. What about them? Well, I don't know. Don't you see the problem with that? How many Hail Marys? Well, we don't do Hail Marys. Of course not. You don't do it. You want me to go and do public speeches going around all over the place because I said what? Because I said maybe Doctor Who shouldn't be a girl right now? Like, I had certain criticisms of that. And they, by the way, they were far more nuanced. It wasn't just simply, she's a girl. No. And I've watched it ever since, even down to the really stupid stuff that I've had to endure. It's frustrating, believe me. You know, but so to go around and say, like, so if I apologize, I'm sorry, Doctor Who. I'm sorry, I should have never had an opinion. I should have never thought that it shouldn't be a girl just yet. Because the Master was a girl, you know? And before the Master, there was only one. There was only one that was like a weird kind of mixing it up kind of thing. And that was a weirdo. Everybody knew it. And the Women's March, they were wearing hats with you know what on it? In the shape of, you know? Yes, vulgar. But they would have no mechanism, no means. There's no priesthood. There's no canon law. There's no kind of moral theology. There's no sacrament. There's no vicar. There's no nothing. Nothing at all. Except for a bunch of rabid, foaming at the mouth people that will sit there and they will light and burn everything down. With the third person effect beaming from them. Ha ha ha, not me. And then what happens? The same people. You can't live that way. How many Hail Marys? What is restitution? What is restoration? What is reconciliation? What is confession? What is forgiveness? If you can't answer that, your system will die. End. End. Because we are humans created in the image of God. That's actually one of the reasons why you don't got to get so mad. Because it's bound to die, but it's dangerous in the meantime. And it's tragic. It's not just dangerous for the individual. It's dangerous for institutions. It's dangerous for souls. And they want to try to make a different religion. They want to try to do everything. We'll talk about that next time. It's all right. Let me go here. Let me go back. We're gonna do this real quick. Come on. Oh, come on now. Ah. Oh, it's in the wrong one. Hold on. Let me see if I can get the properties on this. Let me see if I can. There we go. There we go. It's okay. So, all right, in the comments, and remember, make sure to go. You can go over to Paleocrat Diaries over on Telegram. Of course, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Paleocrat. Is it just Paleocrat Diaries? Yeah. I haven't been on there in a while. I shared today. We're going to be posting there more regularly. I'm sorry that I had to step away for a while and everything. And all of that stuff it's way easier for people who are on Patreon. Just use that as a mechanism for you to support the show, right? But make sure to go over to Telegram. We have a private chat just for the various levels. And that way we can do live chats as a group and everything, right? It makes it way easier. It makes it easier than saying, do you have a Skype or do you have a Zoom or do you have this? You just say, look, we're all on the same page. So don't be ridiculous and don't make me or you do more work than we really have to. Please, okay? Be cool with me. Nicholas reminds me of sitting in an atheist class on Augustine and watching the Protestant faces drop when the teacher laid out, a very dryly laid out, how Catholics compiled the Bible. Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. It happens. Little Wayne says, oh, no, not another Imagine No Felt Banners. Taylor Marshall owes me my eardrums money. What are you, I don't know what that is. Imagine No Felt Banners? Okay. Yeah, I know what it's about. I know what it's about. I just don't get it, Little Wayne. I don't get it. Well, you got to break that down. You know, Taylor Marshall, you don't need to break that down or anything, you know. Let's see. Nim says, I've never been a virtual person. I grew up cooking on brick firewood stoves outside. I have issues even using electric stoves. I never do virtual stuff. Yeah, I really like what Little Wayne said right there. You're on YouTube chat right now. You're on YouTube chat right now. And you know what? Everybody in the YouTube chat is pretty fascinated with the idea that you used firewood stoves outside and what life might have been like for you having issues using electric stoves and other things like that. I know I would. We talk about that kind of thing. In fact, just this morning we were talking about digital minimalism and trying to make it so that our lives are less integrated with the grid, with the need for electric speed. Let's see. Vittershin says, I appreciate your candor, talking to Nim, but I'd say you can't be objective about yourself. That's, you know, hey. See, people are trying to hook you up. They're trying to be cool with you. Little Wayne, are you trying to tell me Augustine is Catholic and help compile the Bible in church councils? Yeah. Wittershin says, such a great show, in my humble opinion. I pray for more to hear this. Thank you. Thank you, by the way. And look, you know, it's always one of those things, pray as if it's all up to God, kind of do the best you can do. That's not the exact quote, obviously. You know, but the thing is, you know, do what you can to. If you like the show, make sure to share with friends. And you don't even have to share links, right? But if you like it and you're talking to people, and sometimes this comes up, say, man, I actually heard a pretty awesome show. It's really cool, man. You know, and this guy kind of going off the rails a little. Maybe you don't agree with me all the way. You know, I'm glad we're not a cult. We're going to be talking about that too. You can tell him that. So he's going to be doing a couple of videos on like serpent handlers and stuff and talking about like explaining the history and everything. And I'll give you one hint. It was a lot closer. I used to tell this joke that I grew up in a belief system that was one interpretation away, or one interpretation of one Bible verse away from handling serpents. When I read the book, I think it's just called The Serpent Handlers, Serpent Handling Christians or something. When I read this book, when I did it, I'll tell you, Serpent Handling Believers. When I did that, I came to realize that was more true than you could ever imagine. And it wasn't just the belief system, it was the denomination. It was the exact one. I'm like, dude, are you serious? Yeah. Let's see. All right. Okay. Weinzel says Jeremiah gave you a shout out too. Of course, man. I'm giving people shout outs. I'm giving people shout outs all the time. Let's see here. Let's see. And I apologize, by the way. I apologize for being a little bit sleepy tired too. If I come across like I'm sleepy tired, I don't know. It's a possibility. You know, people might be like, he sounds really tired. He's actually more energetic than this. It's true. It's true. It's like, I can tell. I'm still getting over the, I need a load-ins. Yo, woman. My mega hot, half Korean beauty queen wife. Give me some load-ins, baby. I love you. If she came in, I'd be like, just put it in my mouth while I'm talking so I don't have to stop. Oh, I love her, man. I love my wife. Yeah, okay. Well, let's see here. Yeah, Catholic Ben Shapiro says, long time no see, Jeremiah. Yeah, it has been because I've been writing a book, homie. Because I've been writing a book. Okay, and if you've got any questions, I should have said this throughout the show. If you've got any questions, make sure to put in the at Paleocrat. And that way it stands out. I'd be able to see it. No problemo. Okay. I don't get it. Can you explain that got to be some kind of religious if you're not married? I did, yes. If you are Father Lassance, in Father Lassance's book, he has a manual for devotions for young men and for young women. I did a series on it. And as I said, I'm not saying I agree with every jot and tittle, but he talks about vocations. He makes the argument that there's only 3 vocations. There's marriage, okay? There is being ordained, or, you know, eventually leading to consecration, stuff like that, or being some kind of a religious, right? And I would say, like, even stuff like third orders and other things like that, being a deacon, for example, but just living the life as a single person, Father Lassance would say, no way, Jose. He would say that's actually a sign and a symptom. That would be a manifestation that God wants something for you. Maybe it's a Jonah it's a Jonah and Nineveh situation. Maybe you don't want to go. Or maybe you're just not doing the right thing. And look, I'm not so strict about it. I'm just saying that was what Father Lassance said. But no matter what, the idea of saying I'm just a bona fide bachelor for the rest of my life or a bachelorette for the rest of my life, and I'm just going to be a single person, that's all it is. And you're just wandering around in the world. There's no, what are you connected to? What's your vocation? And he distinguishes between vocation and employment. So if you don't have some kind of mental issue, right? If you're just a person, and and of course, if somebody's old, it's one thing, but if they're of meritable age and they desire to be married, and that's really, I think, what it is. If you're desiring to be married, that is what you would prefer. You are not interested. You're not like, oh no, I was actually just longing to be a bachelor. And for what reason, I guess. And so there's an episode, I think it's the last episode of the series on Lassance. You can go check it out. But God has freed me from sexual sin. Oh, praise him. Look, hey, that may be true for you. That may be true for you, but there would be a lot of people he could contend as a priest and say, look, that's not true for a lot of people, regardless of their age. Solitary sins are real. Yeah. Including sexual sins. I think we don't have to even say the words out loud, and we kind of know what they are. Nor do you think you have a calling. You're not debating against me. Okay? Yes. I might yet get married, but like I said, not young. That's totally legit, man. Yeah. Nobody's gonna get on your case about that. If they do, send them over to me. Yeah, Joe B says Assemblies of God. Me too. Assemblies of God is not where the serpent handlers started, bro. Church of God. Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee, man. Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee. When they started, it was super small. And I'll only give this as a hint because we're going to talk about it on, I think on Wednesday. Wow. I'm talking about it on Wednesday over at Meaning of Catholic. Okay? So you got to make sure. You have to make sure to go over there on Wednesday, 11 o'clock. But the thing is that maybe I can see if we can restream it at the same time on both places. I'll find out. Okay. But basically, the idea was that, they were the Acts 2:4 experience. They were, citing various passages in the scripture about people, coming after the Lord and after the Paraclete comes and everything else, that we're going to have various different gifts, manifestations, and signs that follow. And so this Church of God was super small, and they would send these missionaries all about, right? And they were called missionaries. Basically, it was, you could just volunteer and say, oh yeah, I'm connected with you. I had the experience, and I believe I'm called to go out and begin just preaching all over the place. People would do that. They wouldn't even be necessarily connected with the denomination because the denomination was so small. And so they would go around and they would write letters. They would go back to the Evangel magazine, okay? And when they would do that, the Evangel would talk about it as the missionaries in the battlefield. That's what they called it. So they would talk about the missionaries in the battlefield. The missionaries in the battlefield. Increasingly, you had very popular missionaries that would go. They'd have huge audiences of people. And why? Because some of them would go around to the megaphone on the car with the little girl talking in the megaphone as the dad's driving, and she's like, come on this weekend, you'll see my poppy. He's going to be handling him there to snakes. And everyone's like, dang, son, better go watch that guy. And I don't mean to be dogging anybody with their accents. And why? Because my family is from the Appalachian Hill Country. On both sides. On both sides. So different parts, Tennessee, Pennsylvania. But Tennessee, we're talking, some serious business over there. With that. And that's where it came from. That's the Church of God side of the family too. That's the main one. And so you say the idea that the Church of God, they started handling some snakes, which brought in more and more people. And that led to more things. If you handle a snake, you're easily going to be able to pick up some, hot coals and stuff. That's nothing compared to a rattler. So you're like, I don't know about touching that fire over there. And you're like, dude, you're wielding around, all sorts of crazy venomous snakes here. Oh yeah, that's right. Haley says, yeah, dealing with a stug bug in my house. We got to pray for Haley. By the way, it's good to see you again. I hope you guys have a good time. Wenzel says, Jeremiah's sleepy energy is 2 times more energetic than my optimum energy. No Ludens! What? We need Ludens right now! I need Ludens by the time... Well, obviously we can't get them by the time the show's over. However, we got to have those Ludens by the time we do the next show. I need some Ludens by Wednesday. My wife's got to go. Get some Ludens, woman. You got to get some Ludens, baby. All right. Yeah, no Ludens. See, Paleo Bingo needs to be expanded. All righty. Well, here's the deal. We're out of time. I appreciate it. All right, hey, I wonder if is Louis awake? I gotta wait for my family. Okay, because I gotta find out here. Hold on, let me see. No, let's turn it now. No, come on, turn it out. Here we go. I gotta wait for my family. See if I can have my kids in here before we sign off. I'm listening. Wow. Ricola. Yeah. Ricola. And look, I hope you guys had a really fun time. We're just going to go ahead and step on out of here. If my wife and kids come in, I sure hope so. You got to come in, woman. You got to come in. You pretty little thing. I love her, man. People don't even know. People don't even know. I love her a lot. I'm actually really sad because she's been a little bit under the weather. So please pray. Please pray for my wife. Pray for my kids. Little Louie's got a little cough. Okay? So his voice is kind of, he's got like a little rasp and he coughs in the morning. And little Wolf, he's got a little cough. Well, I don't know if he's got a cough. He had a little fever, but he had little flushed cheeks and stuff. But nothing big, nothing bad. Nothing knocking him out too hard. Just kind of had like a tiny little fever for a minute, and and they all kind of moved on from that. Oh, I hear it. You hear that?
He's coming.
Yeah.
It's just Louis.
Oh, yeah.
He had to do a diaper change.
Oh, yeah, did you do some diaper change? Get over here, Louie. Oh, yeah. Okay. Great. We gotta get over. Oh, look at this. Oh, you got to move right over here. Right over here. Yep. Look up here. Look right there. There we go. You gotta say hi. What's up, bud? Everybody's seeing you right over here. Okay. I want to thank everybody. Thank you for tuning in every single Monday, every single Wednesday, every single Friday. Same bad time. Okay. Monday's right here on Reason and Theology. Wednesday and Friday, that's when we're going to be on Meaning of Catholic. And of course, every single Monday, really early in the morning, ridiculously early, 5 o'clock in the morning, that is when we have Terror of Demons morning show. We had a really good one this morning. In fact, we're talking about Terror of Demons, which is an excellent book. I just started actually reading it. It's written by Kennedy Hall. We talked about that, had a whole bunch of great conversations, a good way to start your day. It's an awesome time. They said hi. Some man, he says, hi, little buddy. Mikey says, hey, it's little Jeremiah. They're talking about you. Hey, Mama. Oh, she left. You got to get in here, Mama, and help me out. So, all right. I want to thank all of you. Make sure, if you love the show, and I know you do, okay, if you love the show and you want to keep up with all the stuff we're doing, all of the articles, all of the videos, all of the live chats, all of the everything, including the fact that my book is coming. The fact that my book is coming, that it is almost there, it is almost being sent to the editor for review, and those minor adjustments that will be made. And when that happens, it's going to be good. So you don't want to miss out on that. Make sure, until next time, as we always say, never give up. Keep on smiling, and memento mori.
I wanted to make people dream bigger thoughts.